What's up, guys? Welcome to the Start Today podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cavallini. Today, we have an amazing episode for you. We have a special guest, but before we introduce him, I want to introduce my co-host.
Hey,
the
everybody.
man, the myth, the legend.
Woohoo! I'm
Rick
here.
Schaff. Rick, ¿cómo está?
Muy bien, y tú?
Everything good, man?
Everything's great.
I'm excited about
Feeling
today.
good and ready to go.
Yeah, good breakfast. Chef Jennifer
That's awesome.
hooked it up.
She really did.
Yeah, but we're not going to waste too much time today because every moment, every second, every minute counts.
Sure.
The individual with us today is a man who needs no introduction. However,
We're gonna give him one.
I plan to give him one anyway. All right. The man sitting immediately to my left, for those of you listening on a podcast platform, is a philanthropist, an entrepreneur with several multi-million-dollar generating businesses, including Fit Body Bootcamp, a massively successful boutique-style gym franchise with over 1.2 million members nationwide. Okay, he's an investor, a highly sought-after business consultant, business coach, speaker, and one of the most well-known and respected social media influencers in the business, mindset, and leadership spaces, respectively. He's someone I have a great deal of respect for and admire for many reasons. And most importantly, he's a great friend. In the studio today, my great friend, the one and only Bedros Keuilian.
What an
It was a
introduction.
good one.
Mr. Cavallini, thank you. Rick, pleasure to be here.
Man, thank you so much for doing this. I wanted to have you on the podcast for a while, and it's interesting. We finally made it happen. We've had a productive last couple of days.
We have had a productive last couple of days. And I feel like overnight I went to building all these new friends with your team members.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give a little clarification as to what Bedros is talking about. Bedros was just kind and generous enough to do a talk, about a 3-hour presentation for the Nutrition Solutions team yesterday on a Sunday. We felt that was the best time to do it. We're open 6 days a week, work very hard, and I wanted the people in attendance to get the most out of the experience. And initially I'd reached out to Bedros about this a couple months ago, and we had been going through some challenges, still are going through some challenges. And, I basically asked him if he would be willing to do a Zoom call where basically, we pull him up on the big screen and he kind of does a little 20, 30-minute talk to the, for the team. And he basically said, no, Chris, actually, no, we're not doing that. He said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So I'm going to fly in there and I'm going to serve your team. And just amazing presentation overall. And, one of the things that you'd ask me immediately when you'd finish, like, oh, so what's the feedback? Give it to me straight. And like the feedback that I gave him was just simply the reception that I got from the team, just the gratitude, like you could just feel the vibes in that room, man. It was pretty strong. And, everybody's, I feel, standing a little taller today.
Yeah. You probably hit him a little later at night, too,
Sure.
you know?
Sure. But man, thank you so much for doing that.
My pleasure, man. You got a good group of people and they're doing something very special. I believe they know it. They know it. And let me thank you again publicly and openly here because you said, and this is, I think, important for everyone watching this or listening to this, depending on the platform that you're on. When you are asking a friend for something, it should be followed up with, and who do I send the money to? I think the best ways we can support our friends is to do business with them, to not expect them to do something for free. And you immediately said that. And I said, Chris, it would mean a lot to not give me any money, but to send a donation to Shriners Children's Hospital, which is an organization that I support now for going on 13 years. And they do some amazing medical surgeries and procedures for children whose families can't afford them. And you very quickly donated $5,000 on my behalf. And for that, I appreciate you for.
Yeah. Well, I've learned from you since before we actually knew each other personally. I've been learning from you, and just the lessons never stop. To your point, when I did reach out, of course, I didn't just say, hey, babe, and I was actually really nervous to do this. And I don't get nervous. I'm the person people come to, and I like being that person. I like being the person who makes things happen, who can serve others on a higher level. So, it's never the most exciting thing to to reach out to somebody and ask somebody as busy as Bedros is during the midst of a global pandemic, where I'm fully aware a lot of his gyms and his franchises are going through some pretty tough times. But yeah, I basically asked him if he'd be willing to do a Zoom call, and I said, I recognize not only how busy you are, I was like, I recognize like your value, and whatever it costs, whatever it takes, I'm fully ready, willing, and committed to pay whatever that is. So like, let's just get that out of the way. And it was just no surprise the way you came back to me and basically said that you would really appreciate me making that donation to the Shriner General Hospital. It's just, again, there's just levels to this shit, man. And you set the bar really, really high, my friend.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, before we like just jump into the addendum for today, why don't you do just, I don't know, the accelerated bio on who you are, where you come from, and then we'll just, get into the nitty gritty.
The best way to say it is I'm the American dream and I'm the immigrant edge. And the American dream is kind of self-explanatory, right? Literally rags to riches. And this will make sense when I talk about the immigrant edge. And one of my videographers one day as we're filming, he stopped the camera and he goes, you know what it is with you? I go, what? He goes, you've got the immigrant edge. I go, Rob, tell me more. What does that mean? He goes, you're like those old Italians that came to Ellis Island and, they came during a time when the economy was just a mess and they didn't understand the culture and the language, and they just knew that they were in a better place and they were going to make themselves better because of it. And he told me this on the heels of the 2008 housing market crash. So by this point, 2010, we're dealing with 11.5% unemployment rate, which had gone up from 2.5% unemployment rate. And people were foreclosing on their homes and losing their jobs. And here I am filming a course, that I plan on selling for thousands of dollars. And he goes, I just don't understand who's going to buy this, but I know that you've got this immigrant edge about you and you're going to figure it out. And I'm like, can I use that term moving forward, Rob? And he's like, sure. I'm like, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So
shout out to Rob. By the way.
Yeah. Shout out to Rob Yeager and Steed, the old Jägermeister, we call him. And so anyway, the American dream, because my father had the wherewithal that we were going to escape communist Soviet Union, specifically Armenia, which was under communist Soviet rule. In 1980, I was 6 years old. And dude, my dad decides one day that we're going to pack everything up and make it look like we're going on a trip to Italy. I remember this talk about we're going to Italy, but I also remember we were packing a lot of stuff, and packing like long-term stuff.
Oh, so he didn't tell you?
No. Being 6 years old, I think he felt like I might have loose lips, And so my older brother is 14 years older than me. Older sister's 16 years older. I'm the baby of the family and the oops baby, Chris. So, and everything was a secret from me. Now, a couple times in that previous months before our great escape, the KGB came into our house and just kind of, they knock on the door. It's not like you don't need a warrant when you're in a communist country. They just knock on your door. And I remember they lined us all up along the hallway, and they had gotten tipped off that my dad was a tailor, and he worked in this men's suit manufacturing plant, and he was so clever in putting the patterns together super tight on the material, and he would cut a tight pattern, and he knew that for every 10 or 12 suits he would make, he'd have enough excess material left to make one other suit. So what was supposed to be waste or spoilage, he would stuff in his pants and smuggle it and take it home and have enough material to make a suit and sell it on the black market. Mm-hmm. He raised 25,000 rubles that way and ultimately bribed a Soviet official who allowed us to go on vacation into Italy. Well, if you're going to escape, why not just say escape anywhere? Because Italy was a communist sympathizer, so it made sense on paper that we're going on vacation to Italy. But once we got to Italy, we went into the American consulate. My dad said, hey, I'm a Communist Party member, and I denounce communism. And we want to go into the United States. You can have any information you want from me. So imagine 1980 during the Cold War.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And man, I'm getting goosebumps right now because it would be the equivalent of any one of us right now. My dad was my age, 46 years old when this happened. It would be like me taking my wife and kids and going to, I'm not even going to say like Japan because These days, you can use a Rosetta Stone and speak the language.
Right.
Almost like it'd be like going to Mars.
Yeah.
It'd be escaping to Mars and not knowing Martian or the Martian culture and going, I know it's a better place. And he did that because while he was a member of the Communist Party, I remember him wearing Jordache jeans and Ray-Ban sunglasses and Adidas shoes and listening to the Beach Boys. You know, on the black market, he'd buy a lot of American stuff. So this man was just born in the wrong country.
Right.
And he made the great escape. And I was fortunate enough to have come with my mom and dad and my siblings. And it was rough from there. It was Section 8 housing and eating out of dumpsters that were, behind grocery stores where they throw old expired food away. And but I'm forever grateful for all that adversity.
Yeah, adversity is important, and honestly, that's one of the things that I wanted to touch on here in a little while. How did you, ultimately kind of round the corner, like for yourself? Obviously, you come up, you're here now, and you obviously have to work a little harder than the people who are fortunate enough to be born in this country. And you've obviously built a massive. I mean, you're in the process still of building an empire, but obviously you've achieved success at very, very high levels. And I know obviously that didn't happen overnight. Maybe give a little kind of build up to what got you there and some of the things you got going on now.
Yeah. Well, what got me here is I'm the 20-year overnight success, right? Like everyone is like, man, I never heard of you. It's like, I heard of myself 20 years ago. Like I knew the voices in my head that I'm different and that I'm not supposed to be working in the kitchen as a fry cook at Disneyland or as a bouncer at a gay bar, or even as a personal trainer in a big box gym where they charged $55 for my time per hour, but they paid me $12 per hour, the gym did, which is fine,
Right.
because that's where I cut my teeth. And so, is it okay to
Absolutely
drop a couple of bad words on
fuck
your
yeah.
show? One of the lessons of life is how much shit are you willing to eat? Are you willing to be a personal trainer, in my case, getting $12 an hour, working as a bouncer at a gay bar because the gay bar paid more than the straight bar, fighting skinheads every other night who come to Gay Bash, and working at Disneyland as a fry cook and busboy? Are you willing to eat shit, that much of it for that long, to make ends meet so that you can one day serve millions of people as a fitness guy and impact their lives? Like I had the vision over 20 years ago. I didn't know how the plan was going to unfold. I just was looking for my next client and one more client. And each client I got, I worked one less hour or shift at the bar or at the kitchen in Disneyland. And so it's about stacking small little wins like we talked about over a long period of time.
Damn right.
Most people don't want to do that because we overestimate how easy it's going to be, and we underestimate how much time, effort, energy, money, frustration, risk it's going to take. And so for me, I knew that I just wanted to be that guy who impacted people's lives through fitness, not just transform their bodies, but literally like their lives, their belief systems, their habits, their behaviors, their mindset, because that's what fitness did for me. I was a fat kid, man, growing up. The only reason I started working out, in fact, was the year before senior year of high school. So 11th grade, I'm like, oh my God, prom's coming next year. I didn't even have any friends. My lab partner in science class was a jock. He was on the football team. His name is Dave. And I'm like, Dave, I'm fat. I'm out of shape. I know if I get in better shape, I can ask this girl out to the prom next year and maybe she'll say yes. You got to take me into the school gym and show me how to work out, right? And he would only talk to me in science class, but outside of science class, like he didn't know me. He hung out with the jocks, and of course the band geeks hung out together.
Come on, Dave.
Right? And then the immigrant me, I just kind of walked around the quad by myself until lunchtime was over, which is fine, whatever. But Dave one day is like, he goes, I'll take you into the school gym, but you got to tell me who the girl is. I'm like, man, I'll tell you, but you can't tell her. So I'm like, it's Nakaya, right? So anyway, long story short, he takes me into the school gym, and I was so intimidated, Chris. I was so overwhelmed. I see these dudes like, grunting and the weights clinging, and it's just musty. And I'm like, I don't belong here, man. I don't belong here. And
Well out of your comfort zone.
And like any guy, he's like, lay down on that bench press, right? So I lay down, and he puts like a plate on each side. Dude, if you've got no like proprioception and balance because you've never held a 45-pound bar, let alone a 45-pound plate on each, I helicoptered and then crashed a weight and it felt like an idiot. But long story short, I learned to work out. I learned to eat right through him. And that summer, one, being a young man and, having testosterone and also working out and eating right, I came back senior year, 34 pounds lighter, more confident, higher self-esteem.
Yeah.
Like I wanted the physical transformation.
Yeah.
And what I got was completely different. A new man showed up. A new young man showed up. Now, never worked up enough nerves to ask Nakaya to the prom, so I never went to the prom. But
She served a purpose in your life, though,
she
didn't
served
she?
a very important purpose in my life. And from there, I just knew I wanted to help others turn that corner through fitness. And, here we are 20 some odd years later. And I'm telling you, it's been transformational journey. And I can't wait to see what the next 20 years bring.
Yeah, I love it. And with all that said, your gym franchise, Fit Body Boot Camp, it's a pretty unique model. It's I don't know if anything like that's ever been done before. You obviously would know that better than I. But talk a little bit about that, how you guys operate, how you do things, and really what makes you guys a little different than all the other gyms out there doing the fitness thing.
So I had that massive transformation, right? And I realized physical transformation is the seed to mental, emotional transformation, period. Done. Check. And so I decided to become a personal trainer, get certified. By the way, when you read in the back of Muscle and Fitness magazine, get certified as a personal trainer, earn $100 an hour. I did the math. I'm like, if I could train 6 clients a day, that's $600 a day. I'm going to be a millionaire, right? And all I wanted to do was train people and work out myself. So I went and got certified through the American Council on Exercise. Very cleverly placed ad, I might say, in the back of the magazine. And I'm like, all right, I'm ready to charge $100 an hour. Who wants to train with me?
Day one, let's go.
Nobody, right? Nobody. Hence working at Disneyland as a fry cook and going into LA Fitness as a personal trainer making $12 an hour. But honestly, I would have paid. I would have paid to train people and see that transformation in them. Thankfully, one of my personal training clients was this millionaire that owned a business called Autolog. He created software for the automotive industry, Jim Franco. And he was at the time he was in his late 60s. And he's like, why are you so tired Monday mornings? I'm like, man, I worked at Disneyland all weekend, and then I was working as a bouncer at a bar. I literally got 2 hours of sleep, and here I am training you this morning. He's like, well, you got to learn to sell, kid. And he always called me kid. He goes, you got to learn to sell, kid, because you're just an order taker, like a waitress. I'm like, what do you mean I'm an order taker? I sold you. He goes, no, you just took my order. I came in here looking for 3 times a week with a personal trainer for 6 months, and that's exactly what you signed me up for. I'm like, crap, he's right. Yeah. So he took me under his wing and mentored me. And so the first lesson there is find a mentor. There might be one somewhere around you and you don't even realize it. Find a mentor. If I could fast or rewind, I would have found one sooner and paid for one or traded out services for one, right? Thankfully, he was a built-in mentor for me and he cared for me. That's thing number one. Thing number two was when I didn't have confidence, he helped me develop confidence by giving me a cassette tape. Here, learn to sell from this cassette tape. And here's another, and here's another. Each time I got better at selling, my confidence grew. One day I said, hey, Jim, I think I want to open up my own personal training studio. He's like, you know what? I'll financially back you, but you have to pay me back 8% interest. Mm-hmm. And I'm still 50% business partners. I'm like, yeah, sure. I realize now it's a really bad deal and whatever. But if it wasn't for Jim Franco, I wouldn't have had my 5 personal training studios in San Diego. I sold those, started coaching, consulting personal trainers. 2008 comes around, the housing market crashes. No one wants to hire a one-on-one personal trainer for $800 a month. Mm-hmm. And so I'm thinking like, man, I'm losing clients here. This outdoor boot camp thing that people are doing in parks. In our industry, in the fitness industry, it was always kind of looked at as like the redheaded stepchild, like if you're a personal, if you're a personal trainer, you do it one-on-one. And I remember we saying, it's in the name, personal, one-on-one. Look, I got to thinking, if coaches can take Super Bowl winning teams, NFL players, and train them in a group, you don't think I can take Mrs. Jones and get 10, 20 more of her, put her in a group and train her?
Classic example of resistance to change.
Amen. Exactly. So once I thought that to myself, I'm like, look, if we can train like world-class athletes in groups, we can certainly train Mrs. Jones to stop eating bonbons and get her ass off the couch, right? So long story short, I was like, if we can just bring this outdoor boot camp indoors, now it becomes weatherproof. We can make personal training into group training and make it convenient, and cost effective. That was my only concept. And we did that in 2010 after the housing market crash. Now, one personal trainer can train many clients for a lower price point, but make more dollars per hour. And as it turns out, it grew. And by 2012, we became an official franchise. 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, we hit the Inc. 5000 and Inc. 500 list, an Entrepreneur 500 fastest growing franchise. It was just like this hockey stick of growth and pain and frustration. And the faster you grow, the more cracks your business has. I can't tell you the amount of NyQuil and Vicodin I've taken in my time just to fall asleep because the thoughts that were swirling in my head, the number of panic attacks and anxiety attacks I've had in that growth phase. See, most people just heard, holy cow. And then it was like this hockey stick growth. And he said 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, Inc. 500, Inc. 5000, Entrepreneur Magazine's 500 fast growing franchises. But don't forget the amount of shit that I had to eat and how I almost lost my marriage and how my kids were distant and how my whole family walked on eggshells around me because I was just so angry because I didn't like my employees. Some of my franchisees were like, you promised us a unicorn and delivered a donkey, because anytime you grow quickly, and even the human body, we're all muscular dudes here, you get stretch marks, don't you? Yeah. Because the skin can't keep up with the growth of that muscle. You get stretch marks. Those stretch marks are there for a reason. They're a sign telling you something. And that's what I had missed. And turns out that something was to develop my leadership.
Wait a minute. You're saying that once you're financially successful, life doesn't get a hell of a lot easier?
No, it gets more complex, gets more challenging. You lose balance.
What a f***ing concept.
What do you know?
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, I know that a lot of people listening to this, if you haven't been there yet, you don't know. And it doesn't matter how many things you hear like this, because I know I heard it too. It's in all the books, man. It's in all the books. They talk about the higher you go, the more sacrifice that is required. It is a
you got to depend
consistent
on more people, and then you have to coach those people. And if you don't,
and this just isn't in business. This is just in any area of life. The more you grow, the more you become, the more shit that you have to put up with. And there's literally no getting around that. Sacrifice is a mandatory. It's a mandatory, essential, not only part of life, the discomfort, the suffering. It's a part of growth. And I think where a lot of people fuck up is the pursuit of the avoidance of that, trying to live their life in such a way where they can somehow try to just elude the suffering.
Ironically, we've all gone through those things, and at the time it sucked.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, when we look back, we realize that sometimes, most of the time, it's the worst of times, but it's the best of times.
It's the price of admission.
Character,
Yeah, it's the price of admission. And obviously we've had so many conversations these last couple of days, and I talk about this all the time on the podcast. I think it's really important for them to kind of just hear it from somebody else, but there's just no getting around it. And I would say one of the most inefficient uses of our energy is attempting to avoid the suffering that comes with growth, because it's a part of life. I mean, this is deeply instilled in history and philosophy. The fact is, you can suffer your way to greatness, get something out of it, or you can suffer in stagnation. That's a choice.
True.
It's one of two things. And fortunately, we have the ability to choose which one.
We do. And to that point, suffering over time will introduce you to your highest self.
So fucking true.
It's a guaranteed. You are not put on this planet fully evolved.
No,
we're just not. You know, if anyone reads the writings of Joseph Campbell, one of my favorite books of his is The Power of Myth. He talks about the fact that we're not human beings. You become a human being once you kill your human animal. We are emotional, instinctive, reactive human animals. We're no different. You know, like I said to your team out there, if I take away their money, their food and water, they're going to go out there and figure out how to hunt,
how to survive.
And it might get a little violent, right? We're human animals. And it's only in the times like Jesus. If you want to know the story of Jesus, read The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell. Jesus died for us and was reborn. Our human animal must die, and you must be reborn as a human being. in touch with the consciousness. My body is a vehicle. My eyes are the window. I'm literally witnessing the world, and I've got my human animal under control. And it's that evolution that takes place through suffering. And Jesus suffered, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
And so when you think about it, and people are like, dang, is B preaching Christianity? No, I'm actually saying there's not a man up in the sky, in my opinion, with a beard, looking down, judging my future. Turns out hell or heaven is right here on earth, and suffering is the price we pay to develop into the man or woman we're meant to be, to have the riches, the impact, and the influence that we're supposed to have.
It's supposed to be hard.
Amen.
I mean, literally, there's really nothing to add to that.
No way around it.
So let's talk about standards. Okay, standards are important. Obviously, the people who are listening to this podcast, who have been listening for a while, following me, keeping up with my message, this is something I speak on often. I believe that our quality of life is determined by our standards, and the difference between people, the only difference on a very elementary level, is our standards. Our standards determine so many things. Talk to me about standards, why they're important, and what people absolutely need to do to begin improving on their own.
Well, standards are this. It's just expectations of yourself and others. That's all a standard is. The unfortunate thing is, as humans, we're really good at modeling people around us. And so if our circle of influence, if mom and dad have low standards of expectation, meaning they hit the snooze button, they wake up late, even on weekends, they wake up even later, and then they in a disheveled state, come downstairs and they lay on the couch till mid-afternoon, and you see that and you experience that you begin to solidify your standards of living. And as it turns out, you don't need to live like an animal. You don't need to live like an animal. Going back to the human animal. And if you want to live like a human being, you must elevate your standards of expectations, because all of us have that burning desire in our gut to contribute, to have some sense of significance, some sense of impact. But what do? We go, a bagel with extra cream cheese sounds better. Or
It feels better.
Yeah. Or let me just binge watch this whole series of whatever and numb my senses. But no matter what, you're still going to have that burning desire. When you go to sleep, the voice in the back of your head goes, psst, you missed your sense of significance today. You didn't impact like you wanted to. And so at some point, the standards must be lifted in your health, in your mindset, in your physique, in the way you manage yourself, in the way you carry yourself, in the amount of money you want to make. Like standards. No one would ever say, like, to their kid, hey, son, I want you to grow up and be an average adult, marry an average woman, have average children, live an average life, be of average health, have average income. We want our kids to have extraordinary lives, better lives than us. We're literally telling our kids, we want you to have higher standards. The only way you contribute to your kids having higher standards is if you set higher standards yourself. And how do you do that? Pick one area and start winning. And it could be your fitness or your diet or your mindset, but pick one area and start winning.
So I want to back up a minute. You'd mentioned people making that choice to, ordering the pizza as opposed to taking the time to meal prep, right? After work, long, hard day, going and lay on the couch, binge watching the latest episodic Netflix series instead of going to the gym and getting in some physical exercise. When you do that, talk to our listeners and give them a little perspective. When you do that, when you say you're going to do something and then you don't, not only not do it, you do something that is basically the polar opposite. What's happening inside, and what are you doing yourself on a conscious and subconscious level?
Ooh, great question. It's almost like we colluded in this idea of you setting me up for this, because truly, and we didn't. For the record, we didn't. We didn't.
None of this is pre-planned.
This might also be a hint to your audience that success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Because here's what happens. When you break a promise to yourself, you actually begin to erode your self-confidence. You erode your identity, and you start feeling like an imposter or a hypocrite. And let me give someone an example of this. So every night we all grab our Android or our iPhone or whatever, and you set a wake-up time for the next morning. Me, I set my alarm for 5:30 in the morning. Now, if my alarm goes off in the morning and I hit snooze, I had set a promise and I broke my promise. I now am a little more of an imposter. And if I told myself I'm going to wake up and drink 30 ounces of water, but I only drink 10 ounces of water and then go chase it with a mocha cappuccino drink full of 500 calories, I lied to myself again. And so each time you make a promise and break a promise to yourself, as little as that might sound, for example, I'm going to go work out at 9 a.m. And then it's 6 p.m. You still haven't worked out, and you justify by, well, I had a hard day at work. I'll just work out extra hard tomorrow. Sure, that's good justification. Right. However, you just lied to yourself again. You're a hypocrite. You're an imposter. And each time you erode confidence. So if I ask people here, raise your hand if you want to have more confidence. Well, all of our listeners and viewers here, their hands would go up. If you want more confidence, make a promise and keep a promise to yourself. And each time you do that, you begin to reinforce that you're a person who keeps your word, you're authentic to yourself, and you will have more confidence. Ironically, confidence leads to competence, because when you're confident, when you do something, you'll see it all the way through. And competency means you'll cross the finish line. That gives you more confidence. Therefore, they call it the confidence-competence loop. Now, unfortunately, many people break promises to themselves and therefore become substandard losers.
Yeah, well, so to add to that, and that was perfectly said, if I may, I think
you may.
Thank you. When people hear that, they're like, oh shit, I don't do that. I don't really find myself setting little benchmarks and creating little scenarios for me to start developing momentum and racking up these wins. I don't do that. Why don't I do that? Well, the reason that you don't do that is because somewhere along the line, you've lied to yourself too many times to the point where internally your subconscious has built up a painful negative association with saying you're going to do something. And then because you haven't followed through so many times, now your subconscious is protecting you from that. So it's absolutely something that has to be it has to be redeveloped. It has to be rebuilt. It has to be fortified. This is one of those things that it is a mandatory part of the process as it pertains to bettering your life, because the only way to better your life is to raise your standards and set some goals. And the fact is, unless you're absolutely crushing it, becoming a master of the universe at the fucking small things, like getting your ass up and getting your ass moving when your alarm hits, you cannot responsibly expect that you will ever be in a position or have the ability, the confidence, the knowledge, the intellect to do the big things.
True.
Well said. I kind of look at it the way you just said it there as a muscle, right? And many, many years ago, about 7 years ago, I tore my right bicep. And, after being in a cast for 6 weeks, when that cast comes off, it looks, your whole arm looks like a little chicken wing. It's just the biceps atrophied and your range of motion is weird. And the brain is sending a signal, move your arm, but it's just like things aren't connected. The mind muscle connection's gone. But you use the word redevelop. You pick up small weights, you increase range of motion. Over time, I redeveloped the muscle. And today it's the same size as my left bicep. So just because you've gone so far down the path of, man, I'm an imposter, I'm a loser, I don't think I can do it, and I've got a track record of breaking promises to myself, the moment you decide to shift your state, today is the day you start redeveloping your mental, emotional confidence muscles.
Yeah. And it can be done with as simple of things as cleaning up your room, making your bed,
baby steps,
no longer having a sink filled with dirty dishes.
Right.
Things like that are very valuable opportunities. Low-hanging fruit even. Yeah. And, we say not to go the easy path. In certain situations, there is an advantage. If you are so inadequate and off the path, you got to start somewhere. And
And that's probably the biggest problem is people think too big and overwhelm themselves without thinking of the small things.
Right.
Start with the small things.
You got to bridge the gap.
Little steps. And when you look back, you'll see how far you've come. It's unbelievable.
I'll elaborate a little more on what I just said. Perhaps someone is just tuning into the show for the first time and they're young, as I once was, and didn't recognize why this would make a difference. I read it in a book. Why are things like making our bed, cleaning our room, keeping our house organized, keeping our car organized, keeping our workspace neat and organized, why are things like that important, and how does it lead to other areas of growth and success?
Well, as it turns out, your brain is this very complex machine. And the way it was described to me by this gentleman named Dr. Wolf, who's a psychiatrist, was, he goes, imagine little boxes, your fitness box, your relationship box, your friendship box, your money box, your mindset box, all these little boxes in your brain. And he goes, they're not perfectly categorized and not touching each other. He goes, these boxes are stacked on top of each other, they're touching, and then there's wires going from one box to the next. Effectively saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so the content and the condition of what's in one box affects how all the other boxes are. So if my car, the inside of my car is disheveled, I've got empty Starbucks containers and wrappers and old sweaty clothes thrown in the back that I haven't taken out. And we've all done this where someone's like, hey, I'll give you a ride. But they didn't expect to give you a ride. And now they're like, oh, sorry, that's just my thing from yesterday's. That mold has been there for 4 weeks. That cup is going to walk away.
That smell, that didn't accrue overnight.
Yeah. I can take that person, and by looking at their car, I can look in their mindset and tell you it's disheveled. I can look at their relationship, it's disheveled. I'll look at their bank account, it's disheveled. And it's because how we do anything is how we do everything. So if we want to get better in every area of life, don't go and say, now I'm going to change my finances tomorrow. Just make your bed. Take 30 days and make your doggone bed. Or wake up and drink 30 ounces of water for 30 days straight, first thing in the morning. And watch how that habit rolls into other areas of your life. And then over time, you become a decent human being.
It's a fact. With that said, so in the process of change, in the process of raising our standards, which all of us at this table continue to do, our audience does the same. Everybody is at a different part of their journey. One thing that I've noticed for me personally, and when I talk to people, when I coach people that I interact with, I often hear the traditional scenario of they started something new. They developed a little momentum in the form of consistency with that new thing, starting to feel a little better. We could use the gym or a diet. Either one works. And they're doing it for a little while. They're starting to feel pretty good about themselves. They're starting to feel better. Okay. And then something happens, some unworldly event, some unaccounted for variable pops up and basically just pushes them violently off the path.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I believe is inevitable. How do people, when that happens, how do people avoid basically allowing something that unplanned, unexpected, obviously isn't very positive in nature? How do they basically avoid that scenario from basically taking out the other positive things that they have going on and creating a situation where that one thing now is causing a whirlwind of fucking chaos amongst all the other positive areas of their life?
Sure. Well, the easy answer is it's a byproduct of extreme discipline. However, let's not forget we're humans, and humans have a broad spectrum of feelings and thoughts and emotions. And look, my mom has Alzheimer's right now. She's got dementia. She forgets short-term memory. She forgets who my son and daughter are when we go and visit. Sometimes she starts verbally attacking my dad and saying, you stole my money, and he has to call my older brother and older sister because they live closer to help calm my mom down. So we know that there's a plethora of emotions that take place, and it hurts my heart to know that my mom is going to die from this condition. And when she dies from this condition, it's probably going to be earlier than expected. And the reality is, I may go off track. The question is, how far off track will you go? Will you set boundaries up? And that's the important thing. Look, you're human. You have to let off a little steam sometimes. And so the extremely disciplined, they might be able to navigate through like a robot. And that's great. Good for them. I've got a friend who is massively disciplined that way, Craig Ballantyne. I believe the good Lord has removed all emotions out of him, and he operates like a cyborg. The rest of us, it's okay to have some emotion. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to deviate a tad. But you ever go bowling with a kid, how they put those little bumpers down so that the ball doesn't go into the gutters?
Bumper lanes, yeah.
You got to get those bumpers in your life. And my friend, who's a Marine, Steve Eckhart, he kind of draws this green line across a marker board. And then 2 inches above it, he draws a red line horizontally. And 2 inches below it, he draws a red line horizontally. And he goes, your job is to stay in the green emotionally, be emotionally disciplined at all times. He goes, however, you've got my permission to be happy up to 3 inches above that green line, and to be morose and sad 2 inches, 3 inches below that line. But otherwise, those are your bumpers. If you go anywhere past that bottom red line, now you go into deep, dark depression and anxiety and the what ifs, and we gain 50, 60, 100 pounds, or we begin to make these permanent decisions off of temporary feelings. And if you go too far up the other way, it's like, what? Wait, I can't be too happy? No, because it's inevitable that if you're too happy, you will come down. For example, Rick, if tomorrow morning you bought the lottery and you win the big $300 million lottery and you're celebrating, you're popping bottles and we're like, we're going on a yacht cruise and we're doing this and we're doing that. The next morning you're going to wake up, probably not have won the lottery, right? So it's inevitable that the next morning you'd be like, compared to yesterday, this is a shitty day. Mm-hmm. But if you stayed in the green, in that little zone of bumpers, I win the $300 million lottery, cool. My mom just died of Alzheimer's, cool. And that's how we must operate.
Yeah.
I think you have to, I went through that situation you're describing with my dad. I think you just have to accept that life is full of issues and problems and you have to deal with them.
And acceptance is the formula.
And hopefully you have a good support system. Because if you do, that'll make the difference in the world. If you're by yourself, it's definitely going to be a little rougher ride. But
well, and what will make it rougher, and again, this is kind of where I was going with this. If you have some good things, which all of us do, at any given time, there's a disproportionately high number of good things happening to not, right? If you have some good things going on and, you know, life hits in the form of loss of a loved one, job loss, financial issues, any of these things, you don't want to stop doing the things that you're doing that are bringing about positive vibes and good things into your life. You want to double down on that stuff. Now, when people, again, go off the path, right? They're eating good, they're exercising, something happens, they lose a job, they get to where they feel so shitty. And that's what they're feeling, and that's what they're thinking, and that's what they're focused on. Those feelings of shittiness override basically their neurology to the point where they don't go exercise and don't eat good and don't do anything positive, productive, which at that point exacerbates their levels of shittiness.
Yeah, the thing you need most, you stop doing.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And but they normalize it. They think that, well, this happened, so it's like in people's mind, it's a justifiable narrative, and I just don't feel like it is.
You're right. That's when character comes in, right? Whenever let's say you're going through a divorce or a bad breakup, you get up, you comb your hair, you brush your teeth, you put on a good outfit, you try to feel good about yourself, and you go out and you smile through the pain.
Let's just ride with this. Let's just say, hypothetically, you experience, let's say you go through a breakup, a painful breakup. In your opinion, Bedros, are you going to feel better or feel worse if on top of said breakup, you now gain 15 pounds of body fat?
Clearly you're going to feel worse.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we talked about, which is we stop doing the things that are good for us during the time that we need those things the most, during the times of crisis, of life ambushes, whether it's a breakup, whether it's a financial crisis, whether it's a diagnosis of cancer that a family member got. And again, it goes back to, as soon as you realize that I'm off track, it's being so self-aware. And that really goes back to stop being a human animal and impulsively and reactionally reacting to everything, and be a human being and be self-aware. Oh my God, I'm eating like a pig. Why am I eating like a pig? I'm mourning a loss. Okay, if this continues, am I just going to be a broken up and overweight dude? I don't want that. So let me just go change one good habit. Goes right back to, let me start making my bed again. In life, if you want to develop discipline, you might have to, and I say this from personal experience, you might have to go back to making your bed several times in life, getting those small wins and then going, this gave me enough confidence today to go back to the gym. And that gave me enough confidence to actually go and make some more money.
Yeah. The self-awareness is really important. Just kind of thinking, okay, how do I look right now? Like literally, if I had a camera crew right now documenting me post-breakup, like literally, what would people think of me? What would I think of me if I had to sit back and turn on that documentary on the big screen? Looking at it from a different perspective other than your own, I think could be extremely valuable. But the fact is, those feelings of just, not just feeling like you have the mental energy, the physical energy to do the positive things that you need to do. Like it's an illusion. It's an illusion to keep you trapped. It's an illusion to keep you complacent. It's a fucking illusion to keep you a loser, for
And you always
lack of a
ask
better
why,
term.
like, how do you do it? Like someone sitting listening to is like, okay, that's great, but how do you do it?
You just fucking do it.
And you say that, but I'll tell you how you do it. You do it by thinking of making a choice to think about positive things. So for example, let's say when your mother dies, you're lucky to have a mother. You
Right.
can think, a lot of people don't have a mother. They don't
Right.
grow up with one.
To have a mother
So-
who lived that long.
Right. And my dad was the same way. He knows this. I went through this whole thing. And it's like, man, how could I not be anything but thankful?
Mm.
This guy was unbelievable. He got up every morning and like worked his ass off and gave us a better life. And like,
Sure.
I have that. Yeah, it sucks that he's going through what he's going through, but you can't let that destroy what he helped you build, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with a breakup.
Well, a little different with the breakup. And I was going to say that.
But it isn't. And I'm saying there's always something positive. So, for example, I went through a bad breakup with somebody I learned about what love was.
Yeah.
And I tried to focus on those things. And I'm not saying it's easy because it's not. But when you focus on those things, it gives you the strength to get up, comb your hair,
Yes.
brush your teeth, put something good on, and go to the gym and train hard and try to be something better.
Yeah.
Like use that. as
The
drive.
narrative with the death, I mean, that's a very sensitive thing. Depending on, you can't just say, oh, somebody lost their mom. That can mean a number of things to a number
Sure.
of people. I don't have a relationship with my mom.
Exactly.
That would affect me completely different than it would you guys.
Right.
But with the breakup, if you're the type of person who can mentally, emotionally get to a narrative in your head, like Rick just did, just great. If you can't, think about the fact that now, you have to get up and you got to train harder and you got to get fitter and you got to get your confidence up. So at that point, you now have the ability to attract somebody better. Okay. Because the last
that's the way
fucking
they can
thing
feel
that
it,
you
yeah.
absolutely want happening in that situation. I mean, if you're mourning over a breakup, the chances are you're probably on the receiving end of the breakup.
Yeah.
The last fucking thing that you want to have happen is to run into your ex
And
with
look like hell.
their new boyfriend or girlfriend, walking around holding hands, smiling ear to ear, and there you are eating a fucking ice cream cone on the on the bench by yourself with your gut hanging over your belt.
I agree.
That's not what we want.
That is not what we
That
want.
is not what we want. That's not the ideal scenario in life. But you just got to get up and you got to do it anyway. And when I say you just do it, I don't really, it's like, how do you do it? You just do it. You just trust. And then the thing is, when you do it and you're going through those physical motions, when you're in the gym exercising, eventually after a few minutes, you're not feeling what the fuck you were feeling when you were sitting at the house, playing that scenario over and over. I got to get up. I got to do this. It's one of those things that just kind of sorts itself out during the immediate
And
action.
we can all agree here that
Yeah.
training is one of the key principles because it builds confidence in every area of your life, as well as, just chemically what it does.
It makes you a
when
better
training.
person.
Yeah,
really
it
does.
is the universal cure-all. I mean,
Yeah.
It
let's
really is.
face it. It is, and it's unfortunate that people watching or listening to this who have never consistently trained or worked out. In case running, what does train mean? It means working out consistently.
Yeah.
If you have never done it consistently, you don't understand the value. And this is why
It's
during
like
this
a religion.
Right. During this pandemic, when people are like, so what if gyms are closed? What's the big deal? The big deal is for some people, I know a few women who would come to our Fit Body Bootcamp locations session after session after session. And the owner would talk to them, why are you here? Because I've got no place else to go. Because if I go home, my husband will beat me.
Yeah.
Now, that might be the extreme scenario.
Right.
That might be the extreme scenario. But how many millions of people are literally being saved from depression, anxiety, because they consistently train and they sort through their problems? By the way, there's actual science behind this. It's called bilateral stimulation, EMDR, bilateral stimulation. You ever have it where you're riding a bike for long distance and you start solving a lot of your problems, or you're running, or you're swimming, or you're lifting, repetition? And it's because anytime you're doing something in repetition over and over again, you start stimulating the left and right side of your brain that have two very different capabilities, right? The creative and the analytical side. And when they start working together, that's a superpower to work through your problems. They process problems. Psychiatrists call this bilateral stimulation, or EMDR is the method in which they work with. So if I'm willing to do that and not take any antidepressants, I should be allowed to. So first of all, let's reopen gyms. Secondly, those that don't train consistently, get your ass in the gym and start training
Yeah,
because you have
you're
no
missing out.
idea the values
Yeah.
that you're missing out
We
on.
did a whole show on it, but it's just you have to keep saying,
Yeah,
telling people
exactly.
because they just don't understand.
Well, they
just
don't. And because
No.
apparently, and you could, if you have an updated figure on this, please feel free to correct me. But the last time I looked at a statistic, it was a stunning like 20 to 21% of the population work out. But and that's to the standards, like government standards, which is like, 3 days a week, 20 minutes a session. I found that a little, actually, if you look around, it's actually very easy to believe. But I think that's why, apparently 80% of the population can't relate,
Right.
which is why it's not put on a pedestal the way that it absolutely needs to be and the way that
Right.
it should be.
Yeah.
And you'd mentioned things about anxiety, depression being the cure for all these things, but it also 100% is going to enable you to make more money. It's going to help you have better relationships. It's going to improve your overall quality of life across the board. It's going to elongate your life expectancy. It's going to do so many things that are advantageous.
Say it increases the efficiency of every body system.
Yeah, that's
and
so true.
Beyond that, if I thought of the best decision I ever made, it was to start training, without a doubt, because that was the beginning of learning about who I was by pushing yourself in the gym and understanding.
It's led you to
it.
so many other things.
It's unbelievable.
And with that
And the
said,
same thing with you.
yeah, so
Same thing with you after listening to you.
Rick actually moved both of his parents into his home. How long ago was that?
5, 6 years ago. Well, actually, like 7 now.
So
Time
that's
goes pretty quick.
Could you imagine? I mean, that's a big deal. So Rick,
Well, my
you had a
dad-
very
My
right,
dad was also violently confused with Alzheimer's or dementia.
Sure.
but you had a very
So
close relationship
it was
with your family.
tumultuous.
And when
Yeah,
when your dad passed away, which happened a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
did you take any time off of the gym?
Never.
Yeah,
No way. That's the rock.
yeah.
The gym is the rock of everything. It's the fountain where everything flows.
Was it even? I mean, did it ever even occur to you as a thought of something?
No, because I learned so much from the gym.
Yeah.
I learned everything about myself from the gym.
I really
Honestly,
think there's something to be said about that.
absolutely.
1,000%. And to that point, when you share those stats, and we go, well, 80% don't know about it. If only 20% of the population works out, according to that stat, 80% don't know about it. So what we're talking about here, to 80%, the lion's share of the population are like, huh? Right? Think about this. Hasn't the government been telling us for years, hey, you should eat right and work out, all these public service messages?
Yeah.
Yet only 20% exercise, train, work out. Well, I may have figured out why.
I'd love to hear it.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because they just told everybody once, wear a mask. 100% compliance rate.
Yeah.
You know why? It's easy.
Yeah.
Easy. We choose easy over hard every single time. And if you choose easy, you will have a hard life. If you choose hard in life, you will have an easy life. Make the
I
choice.
like that.
Yeah, well, I think people believe erroneously, I might add, that their association is to avoid doing anything that causes them physical discomfort, and it's biologically ingrained in us to like try to avoid pain and seek pleasure. The funny thing is, as it pertains to training, when you seek the pain, you gain the pleasure.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things, I suppose, but
Sure.
significantly, as it relates to training. And
There's one other thing too that I realized about the gym during today's political climate was that I grew up in a pretty white town, and when I went to the gyms, I met everybody of different colors. And when you do that, you realize that we have much more in common than we do different.
That's a
And-
really
and
good
it was-
observation,
It was
dude.
a massive learning development for me from that standpoint. And I would just have hours and hours of conversation with people who were wonderfully different than me. And you can't teach that. It's just something that has to be learned. But it's one of the benefits, one of the many benefits.
Yeah.
I've talked to you about this, and to second that, and really the ultimate validation of how powerful fitness is as just an opportunity to bring people together,
Yeah.
an opportunity to unite people towards a common objective, which is, of course, to become a better human being. When I was in jail in 2015, I was working out, went out to the little area to work out, started doing like, some calisthenics. It's not like in the movies where they have the weights and the
Yeah.
benches and all that. started doing some push-ups and sit-ups and burpees and things of that nature. And, I kind of noticed like some people that were also working out, kind of doing their thing and kind of observing what I was doing. And one person came up and just basically started asking me some questions. And I said, well, if you want to work in, let's work in. And, from there, a couple more people. I believe there was about 9 of them. There was 9 of them and then 1 of me. Now I'm in front of this group, all different races, all different sizes, shapes, Hispanics, white boys, blacks. And it was fucking awesome, man. Yeah. Because what they say about jail and prison, it is very true. The races stick with races in there. Yeah. When it was time to eat, like it was compartmentalized by race. But in that moment, that right there just basically was just the ultimate validation of just how powerful fitness is.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was, literally, even though I was in a very obviously not great place, like physical location and like mentally due to the fact that my life had just been flipped upside down. Like in that moment, as weird as it is to say, man, I was so grateful to have been in that jail at that time with those guys.
Agreed. Yeah.
So,
that's cool.
So yeah, hey, talk to me about entrepreneurship. Okay, this is something that you speak on, is something you spoke to my team about yesterday. What is an entrepreneur, and how can people work on developing themselves as entrepreneurs?
Sure. So as business owners, we here take the bigger risks. You lease these buildings, you buy the buildings, you rent the buildings, you get the liability insurance, you get the health insurance for your people, you take the risk and you buy the product or develop the service or the technology. You're constantly taking risks as an entrepreneur with the hope that somebody will buy the solution to the problem that I've created, and they'll buy enough of it where I will make profit. I will make more profit than just if I had a job. And one day, truth be told, it was developed out of a place of frustration. I was frustrated, and I'm like, man, don't my employees, my team members, the people I spend 8 hours a day with in a building understand how much risk I have to take in the industry that I've chosen?
No, they don't.
And I realized they don't. Yeah. So thing one was, first explain them and don't assume that they know. So I took the time to explain to them. In the process of explaining to them and visibly showing my frustration, I was like, guys, if I was in your shoes, I'd figure out everything I could do in my zone of genius, whether you're a web developer or software support or you're my accountant, and how to make us more money. And interestingly enough, the web developer guy, he actually put his hand up. He's like, hey, B, how can I make more money for you developing the websites that you want? I make the websites, I get them to you on time. What more can I do? I'm like, dude, I'm glad you asked. I'm like, can you make the website load faster? He goes, probably. We need bigger servers. I'm like, great. So if it could load faster, Google will index it higher. Can you make it get search engine optimized by changing meta tags, et cetera? Yes, I could. Can you alter the buttons and do research on what kind of buttons we need or what kind of name, email, phone number fields we need to get more opt-ins, to get more leads? Well, yeah, I can. Have you done the difference between picture testimonials versus video testimonials on our websites? Which one actually converts better? Which one builds rapport better? Which one builds more trust? Well, I haven't. Okay, what if you did that and you did more of those things that actually got higher conversions? You would make us more money with your web development. And I would be willing to share some of that money back with you. I go, while I'm the entrepreneur and I take the big risks and I buy the building and I buy the software and pay the taxes and et cetera, I'm asking you to take the small calculated risks in your department. Pick up the phone on the second ring. And then once you solve their problem as a customer support rep, go, by the way, have you thought about purchasing the platform for a year instead of paying month to month? That's an upsell that makes us more money. And I just started rattling it off. And I'm like, look, I'm the entrepreneur. You're the intrapreneur because you're in my building, and the word stuck.
That's great.
And I saw literally light bulbs go off over their head like, holy shit, I have more control over the company's revenue than I thought. Mm-hmm. And so one, shame on me, I made the assumption that they knew how much risk I take. And two, I did the right thing by accident by just kind of going off and letting them know they can make more money for us and I would be willing to share it. And here's the ways they could do it in their own respective departments. And since then, like literally numbers have changed. And now the last Friday of every month, we have a meeting with our team called the Think Tank, where every team member, even the newest team member that we hired yesterday, like, all right, here's all the ways we make money out of this building. How can we sell more, get more, do more? And some of the lowest level team members that are brand new, they just have a different set of eyes.
Fresh
Like,
perspective.
yeah, they're like, have we tried this? And I'm like, holy smokes. And one dude came up with an idea that made us an additional $78,000 in a year.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'll take that.
That's amazing.
I'll take that.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
And with that said, I mean, there's a lot of things that, my frustrations with thinking like, how could they not know, right? How could they not understand the liability, the lawsuits, the strategic planning, like the growth strategy, like the bills that pile up? You know, those things are very taxing. And what I've realized just through my journey on a professional level, working with my team, growing this company, and just talking to people out there is most people believe that by doing their job, by executing on the line items of their job description to the minimum standard, by just doing exactly what's required, they believe that entitles them to additional compensation and opportunity and potential for growth. The fact is that is simply, it's untrue.
Yeah.
It's untrue, and people really need to understand that. Your compensation and recognition and opportunity that you are getting for the work that you are currently doing comes in the form every week or bi-weekly in the form of your paycheck. That is it. Mm-hmm. If you are doing the bare minimum, like, you're going to get only what you are entitled to at that point. But there are, you know, not everybody has the potential of developing a web page to be more efficient or to be color coded in such a way where it increases conversions. But there are all kinds of ways to add value at all different places in the ladder. And whether it's just literally, I mean, if you're a janitor, right? If you're responsible for cleaning the bathrooms, make sure that those bathrooms are pristine. When I walk into my bathrooms here, I want to smell Febreze. I want to smell like some sort of incense, some form of like, I want that. I want to smell clean. I want to smell cleaning chemicals. Okay. Like I want to know that whoever is doing that task is not just going through the motions, not just going through the checklist and, you know, just signing the thing and doing the basic wipe down. Like, I want to know that they're taking pride in that bathroom. Sure. And that is adding value if you're doing it better than anybody else can. And you absolutely have to start there. And I'm willing to pay more for someone like that. I mentioned to you earlier that I have probably the highest paid dishwasher on the planet. Mm-hmm. Val is not somebody who could make my webpage any better, right? She's not necessarily somebody who could upsell any of our customers, but the vibe that she brings here, like her energy, her loyalty, the fact that she is eternally optimistic.
Yeah. She's always got a smile and always a laugh.
I see value in that. And there are a lot of other people like me out there that will acknowledge and reward contributions that come in unconventional ways. Good energy, bringing good energy to an organization. I'm not ignorant to the fact that that is going to rub off on the other individuals within, and that's going to allow them to perform at a higher level. So these are just some of the things, in addition to what you had mentioned, that individuals who might just be starting out or, you know, don't have the skill sets you had mentioned. But the fact is, you got to do more than what's required. Yeah. You know, you got to do more than what's required.
And to that point, I should say, if anyone is listening to this, I'm not going to make the assumption that everyone watching and listening to this is an entrepreneur. If you have a job, you're in a career, you have an obligation to make that business as profitable as possible. So I challenge everyone here, go back tomorrow to work and ask yourself, or ask your team lead, or ask the CEO of the company, what can I do from my position in my little zone of genius here, from my workstation, to make more money? And they will come up with ideas that will not only benefit the business, but as a byproduct of that, it will give you the two things that every employee wants, which is more money and greater recognition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people who have listened to and are invested in their personal development and such, but a lot of people, if they were confronted with that theory and thought process, they wouldn't be able to really connect the dots and would probably think to themselves, well, if I do that, like, no, I don't think that they'll pay me more. They believe that they are first entitled to additional monies and additional compensation.
So
and
that
then, and only then, will they do more. And the fact is, that's actually not true. It doesn't work that way. Not only will that never happen, if you are wired like that and think like that, you may think that you will do that. But what all you're going to end up doing is just ultimately kind of deviate back to your normal, like existing level of mediocrity or shitness. So, one of the things
we talked about a version of this yesterday with your team, didn't we? Where, most people are like, yeah, gratitude is a good idea. And when good things start happening to me, I'm going to start showing gratitude. And it's like, actually, it's the other way. Find the good things that are happening to you
right
in
now.
the midst of shit.
Yeah.
And better things will start happening.
Absolutely. Non-negotiables. This is something that you speak on, and something that I can resonate and relate to on a very high level. And I love the fact that you've organized this in a way to really convey to people the importance of conserving their energy by setting themselves up in such a way where they can be the most effective and most productive with the things that matter most, the highest level priorities, the highest value of tasks, the things that are going to move the proverbial needle of their life forward in the most efficient manner possible. Talk to us about non-negotiables. What are some of yours, and what are some things that people need to make non-negotiables in their own life to help them grow and evolve?
That's a really good question. And non-negotiables are basically things that you will not deviate on no matter what. And your non-negotiables will be different based on your life's goals and purpose and the amount of responsibility you have. So the examples I'll give of my life may not be the examples of someone else watching or listening to this right now. But if you're building a franchise that you want to get to 2,500 locations worldwide, and you're building a supplement company like I am, and I've got a software company, and I've got a coaching programs for men to help them develop, I've got a lot of irons in the fire. And those irons that are in the fire are directly tied into my core values, what I value. And what I value is fitness. What I value is mental health. And what I value, I really truly believe that I was put on this planet to serve men, to help men become the best versions of themselves. Not because I know the answers, and so now I'm going to share it with you, but by virtue of serving men, it's the most selfish thing I do.
Right.
I hold myself accountable because I am the eternal up of all men.
I get it.
I am the most self-saboteur you will find of all men. And so if I'm here on this planet, and those are my core values: fitness, mindset, nutrition, and of course, serving men, helping them develop, I only have a finite amount of time to do this. And in a day, specifically, I only have a finite amount of time because I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got dogs, and I've got to serve them too and love them up. So why would I ever go get gas for my car? Why would I ever go and change a light bulb if the light bulb's out? Why would I go shopping to the grocery store? Why would I pick up my dry cleaners or take something to the dry cleaners? Why would I take my car to the mechanic? And I share all this with you because all those things are non-negotiable for me. All those are non-negotiable. I will not deviate. I've got a very specific life structure that is designed to help me move the needle to my desired outcome as fast as possible. And my non-negotiables are those things and more. And so I'm going to put myself in a place financially where I've got a house manager who will do many of those things. Gas up the car, get it oil changed, and take care of the house and do the laundry and all this stuff, because my wife is my CFO. She's such a sharp woman. Do I really want her to do the laundry and do the dishes? No, I would much rather her serve our companies and move our unified goal forward. And we'll have Marlon, who's our house manager. We pay her well to basically be the second wife of the house.
But I'm not rich. How am I going to have a butler, right? Like,
Sure.
Yeah. How can I have a butler? How can, all these things that doesn't apply to me. Well, the fact is, like, you mentioned you never go grocery shopping. Okay. Everybody listening to this, regardless of your financial status, there's applications out there. One that I've been using for years that literally changed my life. Instacart delivers my groceries. I too will not go to the grocery store because it's not that I don't enjoy. It's not a good use of my time. And we have to be selfish with our time. We have to be aware of the amount of energy that we spend on things that really don't matter. As far as, having a butler or a maid, look, I have a cleaning lady as well. She comes to my house every week. And that is one of the best investments that I make, because there is nothing like coming home to a perfectly clean home with just welcoming vibes, just smells clean. And from that, like, I feel good. Sure. And from that level of consciousness, then I execute on the things in my life that are important. She does my laundry, right? Again, maybe people can't afford a cleaning lady. I think more people can than they probably realize. My place is pretty big. I pay her $100. So again, what is your time worth? As far as like laundry, I remember when I was in the military, The first house I bought was just, God, it was a shithole. It was the biggest piece of shit. I was so enamored though by the fact that, first of all, I could buy a house.
Yeah.
I had someone who could get me like the loan because they had great financing or mortgage options available for military members at that point, a VA loan I got. And it was 2 blocks from one of like the best clubs in town. Sold. I mean, this house was.
I'll buy 2 of them, please.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a huge piece of shit that didn't have a washer and dryer. So like I had to figure out an option, and literally less than a mile away from my house, there was this laundromat where they also had a laundry service. And I would literally drop my laundry off to them. And again, I'm in the military at this point, making maybe $25,000, $30,000 a year max. Yeah. And I would drop my laundry off within 24 hours. They would have it done, pressed, folded perfectly. And I'd pick it up, and the amount of time and energy that saved me. So it doesn't matter if you're a multi-millionaire. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, we have a responsibility to proactively seek out options and opportunities to free up energy so we can do things that actually matter and live our best lives possible. With that said, are there any other things that you feel people, what are some of those things?
I do feel that people can do more. And so let's talk about something for a second. I really like to go to the ridiculous levels of examples.
Okay.
So I talked about Marlon, how I won't even change the light bulbs in my house because it's just, that's time wasted from creative thinking and moving the needle. Bedros, you pompous, rich idiot. How dare you talk about your Marlon and how she does this with your cars and your light bulbs and your wife doesn't do the laundry. You're right. You're right. I don't have that kind of Marlon in my life. You're right. So let's go to the other extreme. You don't even have an iPhone. In fact, you're listening to this because a friend was kind enough to let you borrow their iPhone 7. Their iPhone 7 for the day, and you happen to be listening to this. That's how broke you are. And so what are some non-negotiables that you can start with? If you're that broke where you can't even afford Instacart, and you're not going to download Instacart on someone else's iPhone 7, Chris, come on, dude. So you go, I'm going to have non-negotiables where I choose not to partake in gossip. It's just negative vibe. It's negative energy. I'm not going to partake in gossip. I'm not going to hang out with people who are doubters and haters. I'm going to go to sleep at 10 p.m., 7 days a week, and wake up at 5 a.m., 7 days a week. These are all things that a Marlin and a multiple 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure income is not required. Those are all non-negotiable. Your sleep, how you eat. You don't have a gym membership if you certainly don't have an iPhone. So you're doing push-ups and pull-ups in the park. Those are all non-negotiables. It's raining, you're doing push-ups and pull-ups, motherfucker. It's snowing, you're doing push-ups and pull-ups, motherfucker. Those are non-negotiables. So I challenge you, Mr. Broke person borrowing someone's iPhone 7, to first create a list of non-negotiables at your level so that you can get to my level and get yourself a Marlin or 2 or 3.
That's it.
Right?
That's it. Yeah. You got to start somewhere. But I think the
list of non-negotiables must exist.
It absolutely does. And it must exist, and it must evolve. Time to segue. Okay. Recently, in the last year and a half, maybe, you decided to start a completely new venture against the grain of what you see in society, something that, I mean, as far as I know, doesn't really exist, hasn't been done before, not the way that you guys are doing it anyway. The project. Talk to us a little bit about the project. What led you to having this idea to create what is now, I mean, look, you're about to start how many classes in?
We're about to start class 6.
Yeah. So how long since you launched?
Last July. So just over a year we've been running the project.
Man. And congratulations on that, by the way, because when you first started doing it, I was intrigued. I mean, it definitely had my attention. I get it. But with how busy you are, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think it was practical that you would be able to do this, but maybe once or twice a year. And initially that's kind of where and even that would have been awesome to see how committed and consistent you guys have been. It just seems like you guys are starting up classes every other month, having a lot of success. I sent somebody from my organization to it, which was amazing. He came back a completely different person. Talk to us about the project. And like this, let the listeners know what it's all about.
So the project is a 75-hour full immersive men's development program that's physically, mentally, and emotionally challenging just overwhelming. And the project is short for the Modern Day Night Project. And what I realized many years ago is that men these days, myself included, everything that I've done, by the way, look at the fitness franchise that I've created, Fit Body Bootcamp. It's because I was a fat kid. I didn't know how to lose weight. Ask a girl out to the prom. I asked a guy to help me figure out how to work out. And then, of course, became a personal trainer, opened up my own gyms, and then Fit Body Bootcamp came to be, and now it's a global franchise. My supplement company, I just wasn't happy with the supplements that were out there, and I was willing to pay a premium for higher quality with no artificial sweeteners and hormones, and I didn't find it. And so I created this. Like, for me, I see myself as the average dude, and I will just create the solution I'm looking for because I imagine there's millions more like me. And so the project really is a byproduct of one day I figured out, I think I told you, as Fit Body Bootcamp was growing, the chink in the chain in my armor was leadership. Like, I had a clear vision of what I wanted Fit Body Bootcamp to be. I knew where we were headed, but I didn't know how to lead people. I was passive aggressive. I was a poor communicator. I was indecisive. I didn't want to hurt people's feelings. If you want to know the truth, I'm a people pleaser. I like looking out for people. In business, you sometimes have to be very direct. You know this. You have to be direct, and it's not an asshole, but there's a fine line between being an asshole and being a direct leader. I didn't know that. Leadership is not factory installed for me. And so because of that, I started getting anxiety attacks and feeling overwhelmed, and started to get passive aggressive with my employees, and really felt almost resentful of my business to the point where it was bleeding into my marriage, into my relationship. And this is so embarrassing. I'm going to share this with you. I'm sitting in my car one day listening to Howard Stern. And as I'm listening to Howard Stern, and I'm doing this because I should have been at work in my office, but I'm like, you know what? If I just pretend like I'm working, but not working, and Fit Body Bootcamp slowly just erodes, I can go, well, I gave it a nice try and it didn't work. Like, that's how done I was with Fit Body Bootcamp circa 2013, 14, right? Well, I'm listening to Howard Stern. He's interviewing this guy named Howard Wasden. Howard Wasden was a former SEAL Team 6 member. And he was around in the Black Hawk Down era in the 90s. And he and his buddy did Overwatch while the Rangers and the Army's Delta Force went in to do a rescue of that downed helicopter. And Overwatch simply means they're acting as snipers. And so he's interviewing Howard Wasden. Howard Stern is interviewing Howard Wasden because he's like, hey, this guy's got a book. You should buy it. Great war stories. I'm like, cool. I love war stories and I love Howard Stern. So I'm going to buy this book and I'll just read the book while I let Fit Body Bootcamp crash around me. Like, the math made sense, right? But I would just do enough tactical loitering in the office to make it look like.
Giving an attempt.
Yeah, I'm giving it an attempt, right? And as I'm reading this guy's book, he's talking about discipline and communication and being decisive, and how they don't just have a mission, they prioritize and execute on their missions. So if a buddy gets shot, they don't just start tending to the buddy. They finish the mission and then they go tend to the buddy. Because if they tend to the buddy and the bad guy's still out there, now we're going to have 2 shot people. I'm like, oh my God, I don't prioritize and execute. I don't have a very clear mission structure. I know what my vision is. I want 2,500 locations. But if you ask me when do you want it by, I would be like, as soon as possible. Right? That's not a mission, like day-to-day mission. And so as I'm reading this guy's book, 1, it's entertaining, and 2, I'm learning a lot about leadership and self-discipline. I'm like, well, if this Navy SEAL book helped me become a better leader, let me just read the next one. Over a 13, 14-month period, I read about a dozen books on the SEALs, just because I'm just fascinated with the way they think and operate and process at a very high speed and get shit done. All of a sudden, I start applying those strategies in my business, and lo and behold, it's working. Turns out the battlefield of war is almost identical to the battlefield of business. These guys bleed blood, we bleed money, right? That's the only difference, but it's still a battle. And with the current state of war, you don't even see the bad guys in uniform, right? And so in our business, like, we don't just have one enemy, you have many enemies. Being an entrepreneur. So that said, I'm like, holy cow, I could draw the parallels, and I'm learning. And so what I start doing are these physical challenges. And one of the things they talked about is constantly challenge yourself, put yourself into areas of hardship. So as I'm reading that, I'm like, yeah. So I text my wife. She's a marathon runner. And I'm like, hey, when's your next marathon? She goes, in 6 weeks. I'm like, sign me up, woman, right? So she signs me up for the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. I'd never run a mile before, let alone run 26.2.
Look, I need that to just marinate a little bit with the audience, okay? You said a lot there, but the thing specifically that is a really big deal that you always say this so nonchalantly, but it's a big fucking deal. He went from no running at all, day one, and then 6 weeks after the fact, which is 42 days, he ran a marathon, which is
26.2. And by the way, I should say I'm not built like a runner.
No,
like
you are not.
Yeah. The powers that be have made me 6 foot, 230 pounds, hairy and handsome. And so when you're this big and this heavy and you're quote unquote designed to lift weights, that doesn't translate well to 26.2 miles. Yeah. So anyway, I trained, I hired a running coach, I trained, and I painstakingly ran this 26.2 miles. And so I'm like, holy cow. Literally, there was this inner bitch that I was negotiating with every time, especially after mile number 16, Chris, like I was like, just fake an injury and quit.
Yeah.
Just drop and grab your knee. No one's going to know, right? And I'm like, you're a little bitch if you do that. Do not even think of it. Okay, just do it at mile number 20, right? And then the bitch comes and like, just do it at mile number 20. And so okay, I'll do it on the next mile. I'll do it 1 mile at a time. I finished 26.2 miles. I'm like, you're a badass. So then I decided I'm going to put myself through these constant 6-week challenges. So I've done 6 weeks of MMA training and then got in a cage and fought the guy, Aaron Weatherspoon, at the time King of the Cage welterweight champion. Just finished a 6-week jiu-jitsu challenge, rock climbing, 6-week surfing, guitar playing, you name it. Anything that's out of my comfort zone, I'm going to try and master it in 6 weeks as much as I can, right? And in the process, I learn about myself.
Yeah.
So I wrote about this in my book, Man Up. And as I wrote about it, these dudes that are reading it, they're like, dude, I want to evolve at that high rate of speed as well. You should put together a challenge for us. And you organize a challenge and people would pay. I'd pay to come and do it. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to make you suffer. I know how to make myself suffer. I almost drowned surfing, because I hired an instructor and I'm like, hey, here's how the 6-week program works. I can only come out 3 days a week since I run a business. 3 days a week. It has to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 hours at a time. And the surf instructor's laughing at me because if you know anything about surfing, the ocean doesn't go on your schedule, right? Not only there high tides, low tides that are different times of the day, but depending on the conditions of the world, the waves could be 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet. They could just be, the water could be flat as a lake.
Yeah.
So he's laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing at?
One thing, people do not understand how much power a 5-foot wave has.
Oh my God.
It will slam you into the ground
like a
crazy.
twig.
Like crazy. That's a 5-foot wave.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when you're laying down on a board, you look up and like, take a 5-foot human, lay at their feet and look up. And that's right. The top of their head is where the wave is. A wall coming at you. So anyway, he's laughing. I'm like, what's so funny, dude? He goes, look, there's going to be waves that you're just not going to be able to surf. I'm like, then you're going to teach me how not to drown on the surfboard. And he goes, then there's going to be times where you show up, Bedros, and it's going to be flat as a lake. I go, you're going to teach me how to paddle. I'll just paddle for 2 hours. And that's exactly, and then when the waves were just right, 2 to 3 feet, I'm not going to, manufacture them and say that they were bigger because 2 to 3 feet was my sweet spot, I could catch a wave. And so I did this and it was fun. And in the process of not drowning, you learn a lot about yourself when the leash is wrapped around your throat and you're like, what did he say again? Oh yeah, don't panic. And then the water just spits you right out, right? The wave, because it's like full circle. So half the wave is up above the surface. The other half of the wave is under there. So it's a full circle and it's just going to spit you out if you're patient enough. So anyways, so dudes are reaching out to me like, you got to put together a challenge. So I'm like, look, there's no way I'm going to do this. So as these people, and here's the irony, man, how the universe kind of works with you at times. If you really have the right intentions and you really go all in on something, the universe works with you. At random speaking events, I start meeting Navy SEALs whose books I read. I'm like, holy shit, dude, I read your book. And he's like, holy shit, I knew you were on the lineup here and I'm on the lineup. I've been meaning to talk to you and get coaching from you. I'm like, you want coaching from me? I read your book and your book helped me not lose Fit Body Boot Camp, right? Crazy.
That's awesome.
That was Jason Redman.
Okay.
Jason Redman's like, I want you to meet this short, angry SEAL. I'm like, who's this? He goes, his name is Ray Care. I'm like, okay. And now I can talk about it openly. When I met Ray, he was on his 38th mission with the CIA in Benghazi. And I'm like, Ray, what do you do? He goes, well, I work for a government agency, but I'm a former SEAL. I'm like, okay, check. Looks like we're not talking any further about that. He made it very clear.
Yeah.
In the meantime, my DMs are blown up with people wanting to do these challenges every time they read my book. So in my head, I'm like, well, if I did these challenges, I'd want a Navy SEAL who's just like a savage at fitness, to And then Ray's like jacked. And then I find out he's running the workout program in the mornings for the seminar that I'm speaking at. I'm like, Ray, how much would you charge to run this kind of class? He's like, I don't know. I'll just do it for free. I'm like, okay. And then my friend who's a Marine decides that he's going to move from New York to California, where I live, right? And I've been coaching him for a long time. And again, a savage at running programming workouts. I'm like, all right, well, I really want to have some kind of shoot house experience. And then a guy who read my book, his name is Matt Schneider, former SWAT guy. He owned a kill house, which is a shoot house where these guys go and train on how to clear rooms. From Idaho, he reaches out to me. He goes, hey, after reading your book, my wife and I and my kid, we want to move out there and work for you. I'm like, what do you do? He goes, I'm a former SWAT guy who now has a kill house. I'm like, I don't know anything about guns and shooting. I have guns, but I don't know that business. Right? He goes, no, I'll work for you in the franchise. I'm like, let's talk. So now he moves out. He's now my compliance officer. Dude, I literally now have a SEAL, an angry SEAL, an angry Marine, a SWAT guy who can set up a kill house with pellet guns. And then Aaron, the VP of my supplement company, I'm talking to him one day and we end up connecting on the fact that we were both molested as kids. And he's like, dude, doesn't it suck that two dudes are having to connect while working out about being molested as kids? Like, think about how many men have gone through traumatic experiences. Their dads are absent out of their life, 50% divorce rate. And these men suffer in silence. How cool would it be if there was like a project or something that these men can go through? I'm like, Aaron, my DMs are blowing up from people who are reaching out to me. And this Navy SEAL came into my life. And then the Marine who I've been coaching in his gym, he's moving from New York. And then the SWAT guy, he's like moving out. And then you're talking about this and you're an MMA expert.
Yeah.
The project was born literally right there. And I meet with these guys and I'm like, how many hours would we need to really fatigue these guys? The Marine and the SEAL go 75 hours. Great. In 75 hours, we put them through physical challenges, evolutions. It's developed just like the SEALs Hell Week BUDS program. They can ring a bell. You can ring a bell and quit anytime you want. But in between the physical evolutions, there's desk time where you sit down and we go through the 4 F-bombs over the 75 hours. Faith, family, fitness, and your finances. And we unravel all the suffering in silence. We go through and we journal and we go through your toxic cognitions, the negative traumatic events that have happened in a man's life that we stuff down and don't talk about, thinking if I don't talk about it, it won't come up. And we openly talk about it. The only reason we do the physical part and smoke these guys is because, as you know, unlike women, we don't go out to a restaurant, drink a few bottles of wine, and then talk through our problems. Yeah. We men are stupid.
Right.
And so we're like, hey, how's it going? Great. How's the weather there? Great. Okay, fantastic. Right. But once we go through hardship together,
it changes everything.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
And so by putting these men through hardship, by suspending disbelief and with their sleep schedule for 75 hours, fatiguing them and allowing them to access those parts that they don't want to talk about, and me sharing openly what happened to me as a kid and Aaron openly talking about that, these guys for the first time in their life are able to process through the trauma, the traumatic events. They understand I help them out in their business, in their life, in their marriage. We create a brotherhood and a bond. And the men that graduated are forever stuck together through a Facebook private group where every Friday we do check-ins on our 4 F-bombs, faith, family, fitness, and finances. And it's got a 40% dropout rate.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah.
So and just to kind of back up, and I want to clarify for our listeners, okay? This isn't just something, Bedros makes a post for online and whoever wants to just shows up. Is it okay if I share the investment?
Yes.
Yeah. So This is something that has the potential to permanently change somebody's life for the better, provided they make it through, provided they don't quit. Yeah. And it's a $10,000 investment. It takes it cost $10,000.
I do need to correct you. It is now $12,000.
I apologize.
As of the time that Lee went through,
right.
It is now $12,000.
Right. So this is something that people they invest in, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get the payoff because there's no guarantee they're going to make it through.
Just like life.
Just like
we simulate life in those 75 hours.
And I know a lot of what happens during the project is confidential and for good reason. However, there has been some things that you have shared online. Can you paint the picture for our audience as far as what some of the physical and mental challenges entail that are okay to disclose and discuss?
Sure. So where the project is concerned, some of the challenges are designed to literally stir the pot and get dudes pissed off at each other to see how they give feedback. Most men typically are passive aggressive, so they don't want to make eye contact, and they're just like, yeah, you should have done that better. It's like, no, dude, stand in front of him, make eye contact, and be specific on what he could have done better and how. So some challenges are like, hey guys, all right, we've been doing this for 18 hours, time to put you guys to bed. So we have a sleeping quarters, and we go, we'll wake you up in 5 hours. But in about 2.5 hours, we wake them up with flashbang grenades and smoke. And everything is, these guys are professionals. Like the instructors, I pay them a lot of money. We've got contingency plans for
They're
everything.
highly trained. They've been doing this.
Very highly trained.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we've got a Navy SEAL, a Marine. You've got like a former SWAT guy. And I'm trained in the areas of entrepreneurship and building mindset and mental toughness. Like we all have our expertise. And so imagine we tell you, hey, we're going to wake you up after fatiguing you for 18 hours in 5 hours. And then in 2 hours, you're woken up with flashbang grenades, told you're going to go down there. You have 3 minutes to empty out all these heavy weights, kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells. It's a gym environment, one of these sections. And you have to move it all to the turf. You have to move it all to the turf. And you have so much time. Of course, it's designed to fail. There's no way you can move all that weight onto the turf, all 16 of you at the same time. And so then we ripped them to shreds. How dare you fail this? Everyone else passes this. Clearly you guys are stupid and retarded. What is the matter with you? And we'll walk up to pick the random guy. The SEAL will walk up to him. Whose fault was this? And we want to see, are you going to accept responsibility? Are you going to point fingers? Are you going to be passive aggressive? There's one of 3 ways you're going to go, right? Are you going to shrug your shoulders? And so then we start creating conflict. And when that first happens, typically they're very passive aggressive, because that's really within the first 19 hours, 18, 20 hours. By the time we're 30, 40 hours in, dude, we might be pulling the truck with the rope, giant truck. And if one dude's dogging it, faking it, you'll have everyone turn on him and be like, dude, you need to pull the truck, or you need to go ring that effing bell, because we're not about to get smoked and punished because you're not pulling your weight. And it's the first time they were able to give direct feedback instead of be passive aggressive, let it build up and then snap.
Right.
How often does that happen in relationships
All
for
the
men?
time.
Right?
All the time.
And the wife's like, wait, I just asked you to take out the trash and you just blew up at me. The dots don't connect.
Right.
And this is why. So there's everything from ice baths to hiking and most discomfort, putting literally swim goggles on, carrying your backpack and hiking with those goggles on, and then bear crawling down a mountain. It's uncomfortable. And the bell is with us the entire time, and it's so tempting to ring the bell.
What's the quickest anybody quit?
The quickest anybody quit was within 2 hours. Now, we've sent 2 people home within the first hour because we can tell they were physically unfit to continue.
Sure.
As soon as we can tell that your recovery heart rate is not recovering fast enough,
Right.
and we have a little oxygen sensor we put on their finger, your blood oxygen levels are not recovering fast enough.
Right. So they didn't show up in shape.
Right. And obviously we give them programming, et cetera, but they didn't show up in shape. We can tell immediately,
Right.
and we reserve the right to tell you to quit, and we'll roll you to the next class,
course.
right? We're not going to be like, hey, sorry, you lost your money.
Right.
But someone actually physically ringing the bell, he was a strength and conditioning coach. The irony of this, he was a strength and conditioning coach who was just army crawling down a grassy turf and looked up at me and goes, sir, I want to ring the bell. I said, are you sure? He goes, yes, this hurts. I go, are you injured or are you hurt? And he thought about it. He goes, I just want to ring the bell. And I said, hey, Ray, instructor Ray, stop the class. This guy's going to ring the bell. And so, yeah, of all people, a strength and conditioning coach, because it was uncomfortable. But I can tell you why he quit, because I always ask them on their way out. And he goes, to think that I was going to do this for another 73 hours. They look at the end game instead of just get to the next evolution.
Just like in life, brother.
Yes. Just get through this one problem.
Bam.
That's it.
2 hours in.
2 hours in.
Which class was that?
That was class 3.
And you said that you guys have about a 40% attrition rate to this point.
Yeah.
So basically what that means is 40% of the individuals who start won't finish for any number of reasons. Usually they quit and make the decision to ring the bell. One thing you didn't mention, which I feel will give our listeners some perspective, and that I've seen pictures of posted online, was the scenario with the body bags and the evolution.
Yeah.
Is that okay to discuss
Yeah,
at all?
yeah.
I mean, you put it online, which is the only reason.
Yeah.
But I totally get that, and I did as soon as I saw the photo online. I got it.
Yeah.
Can you maybe elaborate a little as to what you do and why you do that?
Sure. So every evolution has a purpose. We don't just fatigue people for no reason, right? Everything is purpose driven. And the 4 things we're trying to solve for is teamwork, communication, problem solving, and emotional discipline. I mean, how many dads do you know that are on the sidelines watching their kid play soccer and then they just have a meltdown, only embarrassing themselves, their family, and their kid? That's poor emotional discipline. So every evolution addresses one of those 4 things. And that evolution is called the dash. And the reason it's called the dash is it's the dash between the day you were born and the day you're going to die, right? On your tombstone, there's a dash that separates your birth and your death. I call it the dash, and literally at day 2 at 2:30 in the morning, we take these guys out to a giant field in a remote part of town, and we give them little hand shovels. I mean, these are the most uncomfortable hand shovels that the shovel part actually folds in on itself because it's an e-tool, right? Like those military shovels. Yeah. So you do it wrong and it pinches your finger. And so you got to keep tightening that nut. And it's like, hey, guys, start digging your grave. You only have so much time to dig your own grave. And now, once they've dug their own grave and go into your backpacks, you'll find a blue body bag, a real actual body bag that's designed to hold your fluids in it. Because when people die, sometimes they evacuate themselves. Now, obviously, this isn't for anyone to die, but they will lay the body bags down in there, unzip them, they'll lay down inside, we zip them back up, and then we'll put a few shovelfuls of dirt on them. We want you to feel the weight.
Just a few.
A few, yeah. The number that we put on them is disclosed, is undisclosed and confidential. A few is more than 2,
right?
But we don't know where it ends. And in this process, then we turn off all the lights because we use the lights of the cars to obviously give them some lights, 2 a.m. One of the funniest times was the local PD rolled by. Just imagine you roll by, you see like 13, 14 guys digging graves with about 9 instructors, because we have our 5 instructors plus 4 junior instructors standing there in black shirts, just like, looking at them, right? Like, dig. And the cop rolled by, stopped, looked, and just kept driving again. And I'm thinking, he's just like, you know what, my shift's almost over. Do I really want to address this right now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't even see this, right? So that was cool. But we work with the city. We work with the city of Chino and Chino Hills. And so they're very cooperative. And the fire department allows us to use one of their trucks to pull, et cetera. They turn on the lights. And so anyway, all this said, the idea here, once we turn off the lights, these guys are in the body bag, is I read their eulogy. And a lot of these dudes, you know, they fill out an application, not a lot, every single one fills out an application. They tell us where their frustrations are in life. And so I read their current eulogy and I go, guys, if you were to die right now, here's what your eulogy would be. And it would be Bob lived a kind of a mediocre life, and he was not really there for his kids. He had the best of intentions, but he just never really showed up during the times that he should. And well, he's not really going to be remembered, and he's just a bit of an average cat. And so he's going to be quickly forgotten. And there you go, Bob. And now a moment of silence. And we just give them, you know, again, undisclosed number, moments of silence. And when they come out of the body bags, when we unzip them, every single one of these guys afterwards, when the whole project is over, during the graduation dinner, when we ask them, what was the most defining moment for you? It was coming out of the body bag and then sitting down at a desk and writing what my eulogy should be. And then living that eulogy from that day forward. How I want to be remembered, how I want to be seen, the contributions I want to make. And it's a very, very different eulogy that they write from the one that they gave me going into the body bag.
So basically, it's an opportunity for them to permanently lay to rest their former, weaker, shittier self.
Do over.
I love that.
And a rebirth when they come out.
And again, and then to be reborn again is something more, to rise like a phoenix out of the ashes. And I think that's amazing. I think that's really powerful. And
by the way, every one of these evolutions, like myself and every instructor have gone through. Like my wife came up with the body bag evolution. Jokingly, one day, all the instructors were gathered around the bonfire at my house, and my wife was actually, she was bringing out coffee for us, and she heard us, you know, okay, well, we need to come up with a new evolution that produces this outcome. She's like, oh, why don't you get body bags and have them dig their own graves and put them in their body bags so they can experience that death is real.
Yeah.
And the Dash was born. Yeah.
That does not surprise me at all. That I'm sure that that's not just something that, oh, we just happen to go through all these evolutions. I'm confident that's a requirement, as it is in all high level, really difficult military specialized training. Anybody who's an instructor, they absolutely have to go through all of it, so they have that awareness of what they're putting people through, so they can then be somewhat empathetic of that person's, what they got going on in that in that moment. And you know, with that said, this was something that semi-recently came out, and I did feel it to be appropriate to bring it up. Obviously, this is a pretty intense transformation training platform. You guys recently lost somebody in another way that was going through the program.
Yeah.
Someone who was going through the program, unfortunately passed away during the training. And I was hoping that you could shed a little bit of light on that, and maybe kind of elaborate a little bit about what that kind of looked like. How did you press on from that point? Because from what I understand, it was pretty much in the middle of the 75-hour training window. And you know, what, basically just give us a little perspective on what happened with that.
You know, since day one, we prepared for the prospective idea that someone might die during this, not necessarily because of the project, but we hear about people dying at a mud run, at a 5K run.
People die in specialized military training all the time.
All the time. And this is certainly not a specialized military training. It's very tamed down, but people die in gyms all the time. And look, as someone that is a CEO of a franchise, we've had people show up to their morning workout and then just during their normal battle rope session, keel over. And some are able to be saved and others not. It's just a human condition. You don't know. There's no expiration date stamped on you that says this is the day and time you go. And so nevertheless, we've trained and prepared for this, like who's calling 911, who's doing compressions, who's getting out the AED, who's clearing out the people, et cetera. All those things. And so in a recent class, when this happened at our number, somewhere between 31 and 33, more than the halfway point or close to the halfway point of this thing, in our compound, this gentleman just, fell over from a seated position, and we immediately knew that something wasn't right, and immediately everyone went to doing their protocols. This guy's calling 911, this guy's clearing out the room, these guys grabbed the AED. Interestingly enough, in this particular class, his battle buddy, because every guy has a battle buddy, his battle buddy happened to be a firefighter paramedic. We're talking about the odds being stacked in all of our favor, right? And Chino Fire Department is right down the street from our compound. Like, this didn't happen on a hiking trail where we were like hiking in the hills. And immediately we put the AED on. AED is like, no need to shock him. So it doesn't shock him. And so the compressions continue, and fire department comes, and get this, the guy that's doing the compressions from the fire department is a guy that trains the other fire departments on what's known as, I believe it's called power compressions, right? So the odds are so in our favor. Unfortunately, he doesn't come back. He doesn't come back, and we're waiting for the autopsy results to see what happened, right? Could this have happened anywhere for him? Or was this just the time? And so, this happened, and I got to tell you, like, we were just all thrown back, because prepping for it, almost a year before is one thing.
Yeah, it doesn't come with the emotions.
No. It happening and knowing this is not a trial run, this is the real deal, and everything went smooth, and you're like, crap. And he didn't survive, because in your mind, when you're thinking about how this happens, you go, and then he lived. Absolutely. And we went and visited him in the hospital. Like, that's how I always pictured it. That's not how it went down.
Yeah.
And so, afterwards I went upstairs and I talked to the other candidates of that class. I'm like, guys, he didn't make it. That's the sad and unfortunate part. I'm baffled beyond myself. I don't know how to think and process, and I'm just kind of going to vomit here words. And once I'm done vomiting words, I'm going to ask each and every one of you if you want to continue. The 5 instructors have committed to getting you to, if even one of you want to continue, if you want to just come back to another class, if you want to leave and never come back, that's fine. But I'm going to ask each and every single one of you. And I went, and at that point, there was 9 of them left. And actually earlier in that class, within the first hour or hour and a half, a gentleman that we put the oxygen sensor on his finger, his blood oxygen levels weren't recovering fast enough, and we asked him to leave and come to a future class, you know? And so, you know, we've got our finger literally on the pulse. It's just this happened. And so as I went through and I asked all these guys, I'm like, look, do you want to leave? Do you want to stay? He goes, I'm staying and I'm going to finish this for him. And all 9 of them, one at a time, I'm staying and I want to finish this for him. And man, I had this sense of responsibility on my shoulders and feeling like we will finish this.
Yeah,
like I had to then muster up that energy and do it. And what's interesting is this was class number 5 that this happened. And so from previous classes, I've gotten 3 letters from wives who have told me that, you know, my husband was in a dark place. He's threatened suicide before. And after going through and completing the project, he's in a better place. Our marriage is saved. His business is saved. And you've saved his life. Now, in their application, none of these 3 guys said that they were entertaining suicide. And one of them had actually attempted suicide, you know? And so when I think about the lives that we've saved through the project and the lives that we will save, I'm honored and privileged that these men put their trust in us. And I'm just saddened that we lost a guy and we don't know how. And when the autopsy results come in, we will know.
You know, first of all, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. You know, most people in that situation probably wouldn't. They would probably try to hide it, put it under the rug, whatever the case is. But man, that really says a lot about your character. And I think it also says a lot about the program. It's one of those things where like there's always a possibility that today it might be it for all of us. And in something like this, like when you're consciously, proactively looking for an outlet to transform your life and to change your life, it sometimes come with risk. And that risk can obviously fluctuate. But something like this, man, I think the biggest takeaway for me is twofold. The fact that you obviously had gotten through to the other individuals, the other nine men who wanted to continue, who refused to quit, wanted to push forward, and they all did. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, they all graduated. And as far as I'm concerned, the gentleman that passed away, he was already on this side of he was done with the hardest part of the programming. From that point on, when they returned from a hike, and in the compound is when that happened. That was their final hike that puts them in phase 2, where now you're self-motivated. You're not motivated through us pushing you and challenging you anymore.
So you had 10 graduates to that class.
As far as I'm concerned, we had 10 graduates.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
The other part is the fact that look, you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of different ventures, a lot of different outlets that require your attention. And with business, like certain businesses come with certain amount of liability and risk. What I think is most admirable, Bedros, is the fact that despite this situation, and this is adversity in its purest form, that you've decided to not only go forward with the project, but to actually step it up, to do more. You're having, from what I understand, you're about to have your biggest class that you've had to this point. Yeah. You're doing them frequently. And I just think that's amazing, because I can't even imagine the type of pressure and stress and just emotional, just the emotions that are attached to that situation. But the fact that you're focused on the greater good because you know objectively the impact that this is having, it's very inspiring, man. And I just want to say thank you for everything that you do, but especially in this dynamic, putting yourself out there like that to help people change their life, and to putting yourself and exposing yourself to risk that most people could probably never fathom. It's just a testament to your character, man. And I appreciate and respect you so much.
Well, dude, I not only am grateful for those words that you just said, but I know, like, deep into my bone marrow that this is my calling. Like, this is not, look, you don't put yourself, especially where I am financially, you don't put yourself in a place where you're going to be awake for 75 hours. You know, we get little sleeps here and there when we put them down to sleep, like little cat naps, but I'm 46 years old. I've got very successful businesses. I know this is my calling, and 5 classes a year, I'm willing to do 75 hours of no sleep and be there with these guys, just like all the other instructors are, because I know that I would have done a program like this if it existed, rather than going to see a therapist, rather than going and maybe reading all these books. Not everyone's going to read self-help books. Not everyone's going to reach out to a therapist. Not everyone's going to do the things that are going to better them.
Yeah.
But some people are going to go, you know what? This looks like it might be for me, and this guy seems like he might actually care.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, well, I know what the reason is. The more I do for these men, the more I do for myself. I truly get the same level of fulfillment out of it, and breakthroughs that they get as they graduate the project. And so it's my calling, and I'll continue to do it. There's no other way to look at it than that.
Transformation is such a powerful thing. And knowing you had a hand in helping somebody better their life and allowing them to just evolve and become something more, to be able to create better opportunities for themselves, provide a better life for their family, that is the most valuable form of currency that this universe will ever know. And, I can second this statement about you saying, you caring and all that. And some people might hear that and say, well, they're paying 12 grand for the thing. Well, I happen to know that once the people make it through, the ones that do make it through, that they all get your personal number.
Yep.
They all have access to you, and you keep in touch with everybody. And I think that that's extraordinary, because it's not a thing that happens, man, in this world. Like, we both know a lot of successful people. You know a lot more than I do. Most people do not make themselves available like that. And I want to give credit and recognition where it's due, because there's so many things about you, just little subtle things that I've observed that have helped me become a better person and helped me realize, like, some of the things that I'm doing are just simply not sufficient and inadequate. And I thought they were. Sure. Well, I thought I was doing
just
good.
Listening to you over the last couple of days has really ignited some old flames in me that I kind of let, get down, but now they're starting to rage, and it's encouraging me, and it has to be happening to the people that are listening as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So I failed you and in your intro, and did not mention the fact that you are in fact a best-selling author.
Yeah.
The book Man Up, you mentioned it, guys. I highly suggest. Man Up. We have that on our company's mandatory reading list, by the way.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I probably
you.
should have shared that with you when we added that.
Might have shared that with me yesterday, Chris.
Well, I didn't know if every team member having a copy was a
like,
good indication.
maybe he bought some, but he could have just texted me, and I would have told him how to get it.
It was well worth the investment. And I remember when you gave me the book the first time we met. I read it in a few days. I had some travel going on, and I was on the flights, and then I kind of got into it, and spent some time reading in the hotel room. But it's an amazing book, guys. Definitely pick it up. People ask me all the time, "Hey, what book should I read?"
Right here, it's on my list.
Yeah, what book should I read? You absolutely should read Bedros's book, Man Up, because you're going to get something out of it, and it's just a good opportunity to pay it forward and support a great human being who's making a huge impact in the world. And I think that if you listen to this, there's no way you listen to this and didn't get an immense amount of value. So it's something you could do to support him, to support us, and just do the right thing, guys, because that's what we do. We back winners, support winners, and that brings about the same into our lives. So, B-Man, thank you for doing this.
I appreciate the opportunity,
awesome,
Chris.
man.
Thank you, man. You're such a great interviewer, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is probably like my fifth one, so I feel like I'm now developing some momentum. Rick was with me the first time I did one, and I'm like, dude, how did I do? Like, I wasn't really sure because I'd never done it before. He's like, you did pretty good. I'm like, did I?
Yeah.
Man, like, interviewing you, like, I know you well. I've learned so much from you. I admire so many things. So it was pretty effortless to come up with the format. And man, I'm just so grateful for your friendship. So grateful for everything you're doing in the world. And
thank you, sir.
I just I hope we can do this again in the future. Where can our listeners find you in the unlikely event they're not already following you?
Well, best place to find me is on Instagram at Bedros Keuilian, or my website, manup.com.
Yeah. And hey, for any of you guys who are like fascinated, intrigued, compelled about the project, look into it. DM Bedros if you have if something about what was said today in that capacity, like if you feel called to it, I highly suggest looking into it. I sent one of my employees, also been a great friend of mine for about 16, 17 years. I sent him to it. I made the investment. Well, I mean, initially I made it for two reasons. I made it to support Bedros, and I also made it because I wanted to see my friend improve and evolve. And, you know,
And
you over delivered on that.
It did have an impact on
Yeah, it did. He came back a different person. It was very obvious.
Yeah.
I mean, and everybody said it. Everybody said it. Within the first couple of days, like,
True.
he's different. His body language, his energy, his postures, mannerisms. The shit works, man. The shit fucking works.
It does. It does. And it's needed during a time when men are stripped of their title of being men.
Yeah.
And we need men. We need
Yeah.
strong men, because strong men are protectors and providers.
Damn right. And anytime we can voluntarily seek out discomfort, I mean, those are opportunities that we want to grab by the fucking throat and seize. And I don't know that there's really a more profound opportunity to do just that than the project. But guys, thank you so much, Rick, Bedros. Appreciate you guys listening. Yeah, man, follow Bedros, buy the book, and man, I'm just like really good vibes right now. So, guys, have an amazing week, and we'll talk to you soon.